So hi guys, I'm a Badagry. We're just coming from Togo for you know, and I'm with Sir
Cornerstone.
Sir Cornerstone. Yeah. Sir Cornerstone will be sharing us the heritage and the slave history of Nigeria today. You know, it holds a deep roots in our heritage, and I feel everyone is supposed to, you know all of these stories, so it can let you know where you came from and what your ancestors actually passed through before we could actually gain freedom or independence in our country. So this is a very important story. I feel everyone should always pass down from generations to generations, let them know what their heritage is and what their forefathers went through. So Sir Cornerstone would be taking over from now and we'll be going around. So where are we right now?
Yeah, you're welcome. What's the name?
Lami, sir.
Lami.
Olamide.
Olamide, you're Yoruba.
I
got to know that through your name.
Yes, sir.
With my name Cornerstone, you can't tell me where I really come from because that name is not our name. But if I tell you that I'm Kofi, you can trace my route to Togo. Now you mentioned that you're just coming from Togo.
Yes,
how
sir.
I wish. You see that Togo, the border between Togo and Benin, it's called Aneho.
Yes, Aneho.
Yeah, that's my state.
Oh.
There's a place called Agbedafo, where you see a dungeon where the enslaved Africans were being kept. When I got there, I think last year, Kiluga believed that I was dropping the tears because what I saw there is terrible.
And I was at Aneho. Today, I just went. I took a drone shot of that.
Wow!
That beautiful place.
Wow,
when you just
asked them that where is the Agbeda for their slave house.
I didn't know they had.
You will drop tears if you're a human being.
I'll go back there.
Now you are welcome.
Thank you, sir.
You can call me Kofi.
Okay, sir.
Now, the world know this compound as Brazilian Barracoon, and the reason why they call this compound Brazilian Barracoon, all slave taking for this compound were Yoruba origin. That's why today in Brazil, you see the culture and the tradition of the Yorubas in Brazil. And Barracoon is a Portuguese word. No, it's a Spanish word, sorry.
Barracoon.
Barracoon means, it's a Spanish word meaning cell, dungeon, where the enslaved Africans were being kept. And we have 40 rooms in the compound today. But we'll be privileged to see just two being preserved by the family of the man that owned the compound. And this is the xenotype of the man that owned the compound. He was captured at the age of 6. Abbas was the first master, a black man who resided in the Republic of Dahomey. The Republic of Dahomey was changed to Benin in 1975, maybe Bieno Cotonou or Ajache. So during the Abbas and Dahomey, maybe you will have watched the movie Women King. That Women King, have you watched the movie?
I think all those Amazons.
Yes, yeah. During that era, he was captured as a slave boy, and he has a name. Ifare Milekun was the name given to him by parents. But today, how comes his name changed to Seriki Williams Habas? And that era, we have two categories of slave: a domestic slave that work in their masters, and while the field work on the farm or on the plantation. Abba was the first master. He resold it to a white man named William, who took him to Brazil. And simply because the white man intention to use him, Sir William now taught him how to read and write. It was legal. Slave must not go to school. The reason why they want to send them to school, they be like, if these black people will be given education, one day they wise up and rise up and fight for their rights. So through William, he speak English, Dutch, and Spanish, and he could read and he could write. Wow. Now, when William gave him freedom, when he left Brazil, he first settled down in Lagos. From Lagos colony, he came down to resettle where we are standing at. And when he came here, it was the second master William that built the compound in the 1840s. In 1895, he became the Seriki. Seriki is a title among the Muslim clerics. Now, because slaves used to bear their master's name, that's why he chose to bear them on the first master, the second, and the title that they are. His own name, Ifare Milekun, disappeared because slaves have no identity. And for that reason, when people pay a visit, I used to tell them, let's give our children our African's name. There's nothing ever wrong with our name because our name have a kind of direction. Somebody can locate, maybe you give me your name, I quickly know that you're a Yoruba man through your name. Are they being the European or the American or whatever they call themselves, retain the name of those enslaved Africans because their children to pay a visit.
Yes,
they comes around.
The heritage.
Yes, when it comes around, when I'm taking them, suddenly their mood will change and some days we started dropping tears. Because they know that they were Africans, but where do they really come from? Had it been they retain their name, would have been easier for them to repatriate. And there was this saying, if you want to destroy a man, you take away his name. The European, the Americans, or whatever they call themselves, they destroy away Africa. Now, let's turn around. Now, when the European came to Africa, now, a lot of people don't even know that African everything began in Africa. Civilization began here. Mankind started from Africa. We call it anchor of life. Africa is the anchor of life, where human beings migrated from and they spread all over the world. And black man, we are not inferior. We are superior being. You understand? And before they came, we'll be spending money before the arrival of the Europeans. Now, let me quickly mention 4 types of money our fathers spent in the old day. In the old day in Africa, our fathers spent tobacco as money. They spend what is known as Yala salt. I think there's a local government in Cross River named Iyala. In Iyala, they spend salt as money. They also spend Manila. Manila used to come in a covering, like what I'm putting on. Portuguese use Manila. Our forefathers to use Manila. Then the cowrie shell. Let me show you the cowrie shell. Yoruba call it Owoeyo. We are also used as money. But when they can see, can you buy something with this now? Or they pursue with cane? But really, these are some of the money we spend in Africa. But Europeans said they would have preferred doing the trade known as trade by barter with them back then. Now, imagine Europeans giving our forefather a ceramic bowl. They will now collect 10 human beings as a slave. Now, do you what really make tear roll out of my eyes sometimes? All the products that we used to produce in, if you get to another part of Africa, you see that they will take our resources here down to their own country. They refine, they still bring it back here to take our own people as a slave. That's why we call it triangular slave trade. Now, mirror and bead. You can say 2 slaves, I can say 3. We call it bargain power. A bottle of whiskey or gin go for 10 human beings. We still have the original bottle inside. I will show you.
Wonderful.
An umbrella go for 40 human beings. We still have the surviving umbrella in the middle. Even though I think 7 years ago, the former vice mayor of Nigeria, Yemi Oshibajo, was here to see the umbrella for 40 human beings. Oni of Ife was here. Olu of Iwo, the king of Rotu, was here. You see their picture when we enter the museum. Now, these ones are called cannon gun. The longer one go for 100, the smaller and 40 slaves. European will give you a ding gun, you give them 40 human beings as a slave back then. And the 2 doors have been here since 1840s when this compound was being established. Now, all the compound are called what? Barracoons. That means cells where the enslaved African were being kept. But the government met with the family of Ifare Molecular, they should stay 2. Let's see those 2 cells and see what you have in there. So 38 rooms were being occupied by his family. Now look at that well at your front. The well was dug in 1847.
1847.
But the slaves, if you look the water is not clean enough because they have no choice. They are slaves, so they still have to consume the water either dirty or
clean.
Yeah. Bring it out. Let's just see the water. You can see the color. You have a kind of yellow color. So now this way.
But sir, I wanted to ask, don't you think before slavery started with the Europeans, Africans were already enslaving themselves?
Okay. You see, actually, I love what you have just said. Now, I don't want to mention that before, but because you mentioned it, let me talk more about that. You see, before the arrival of the Europeans, there's a tribal war going on among the Africans. Okay? Now, Yoruba said, Wakweru.
That means if
you conquer any community, you take the people
and you take their loot.
Away as
their belongings.
Now, we've been enslaved ourselves before the arrival of the European. And I used to say that as I'm standing before you, my forefather to own slaves, but we are not slave traders. How do we own our slave? If you have money then, no, not by war. You can go to the market and purchase and buy human being the way they used to buy goats in the market.
Wonderful.
You understand? That's how we own our slave. They go, then you'll be using them to work for you. Now, a lot of people don't even understand that there are always 2 sides of the coins. Now, the Europeans have their own blame, while the African chiefs that were sent there to have their own blame as well. You understand?
Yes, sir.
You see, Africa of old, we have king, queen, we have kingdom, soldier, warriors that you cannot penetrate. We have the Oyo Empire, we have the Shaka Zulu and Co. We have the Ghana Empire. You understand?
So what now, empire is Shaka Zulu?
That's what the South Africans. Yeah, maybe you'll have read about the story of Shaka Zulu, one great warrior. Now, when they came, any community or any village that they realized these people were not well organized. That's what happened in Oshogun in Isheyin. Look at when Ajayi Crowther was captured, because they invaded that place, because they started shooting gun and they captured the people away as a slave. Anywhere they got to, if they realize these people are well organized, they will not go through our greedy chiefs with those items that show on the wall to entice them. Okay, you give me a bottle of whiskey, I give you this, you give me these people as a slave. That's how it's all started. Slavery has been with mankind right from the cradle of the world, you understand? Now, this is a picture of the man. I'll tell the story outside. And this is him. This umbrella here that this slave boys carry on the head of him, this is the surviving umbrella for 40 enslaved Africans. It was made of wood, bronze, silk, cane, and iron. You can lift it up and see how heavy it is. Can you see it? Now, and as heavy as this umbrella is, just a guy called slave had to carry firm on the head of the master. If the umbrella dropped from his hand to the head of the master, they'll be headed in, because slaves were property and they believe they can do anything with their property. And the same umbrella we are introduced to the former vice president of Nigeria, Yemi Oshibajo, 7 years when he paid a courtesy visit to the museum. Now, this one is called Covling Yoke. Let's quickly experiment with this. Now, the plantation where the slave worked used to be a very large farmland. For them not to be able to escape from the plantation. Now, come over. They pull this at the ankle of the first slave.
Shit.
Come over. Then the ankle of the second slave. Now, this straight rod, okay, will be passed from here to this side. Now, look at this small hole. They'll now put their padlock here to join 12, or they will yoke 12 all together. And this thing was made of metal and it's heavy. And there's no how it always put wounds around the ankle of the slaves. Who care? Because they were slaves the next day, they'll still be wearing this on their.
People really suffered in the past.
In fact, it's terrible.
If there's any word to say more than suffer, I think it would be the best description for that.
This one is waist chain for any stubborn slave. Any slave that is stubborn, you can see the guy, these three men are slave, the one in the middle, they tie the chain around the waist. So you know it's heavy, just to calm the slave down. Now, they put this one inside a fire to write the name of the owner of the slave on the checks or at the back. We call it brandy. Because slave kept here, we are owned by different owners. For identification, you just have to brand your slave with red hot iron. Then there's some slave, we call them fugitives. Who are the fugitives? They are the runaway slave. Today you run, tomorrow you run. The master will say you bring the slave. Now you know our leg has a thumb. They put this iron drilling bit in between the thumbs here. They will drill it down, or they use a machete. They will chop off one of the toes of the runaway slave so that the slave will not be balanced. If you are watching a movie titled The Root by Alessali Kunta Kinte, similar to the guy. Now, this chain here and the one over the wall were used to kill the slave. Later, when we enter the second room, I will be telling you how they do the lynching of the slave with these two chains. And this one standing here, there's something called chariot. That thing was normally pool owned by the man called Seriki Williams. But now, I told that the room looked like room and parlor. This is where they inspect them to see if they are healthy. Because their aims and objectives, they were going to work where they take them. So they want a very healthy slave. This is why they will examine them. Any slave above 50 are called old slave. Any sick one are called macrons, and they don't want such a slave. Now, we are going into the dark room to see where 40 enslaved Africans were being kept. Please, if you are taller, please, you have to bend while coming in. So, wash your head. So, this is the dark room. Look at that small window up there, and that will give the ventilation, and 40 of them will be here for 3 to 4 months. And the floor is not being plastered, it's a sand. Okay, now they will be here for 3 to 4 months. This is where they defecate, pee, do a lot of things. Imagine the odor, the heat, and imagine how many human beings they will have died there. That's the main reason when people comes around and tell them you are not here to catch from, but just to feel the pain the people of the past have felt. Now, if you look at the body of that bottle, you see 1873 customized on the body. That's a 10 human being, and that round object we call it record. But today we use DVD and CD. We didn't know how many slaves that were used to collect those records. And these are the gifts given to him by the Brazilians and the Germans. Giving this teacup there. You can see the German writing over there. In logistic, might what? Oh, sorry, I'm not the German, so I cannot pronounce it. All against keep. But the meaning, sometimes some German tourists were here, and I begged them to translate that for me. And what they told me, they say, in a circle where people take drinks, there will always be happiness around that circle. That's what it meant. Now, these are each of the plates ceramic bowl go for 10 slave. This is a 50 human being you are seeing here. It doesn't matter the size. When they give you one of these, you get 10 human beings. Now, as a Muslim, if Seriki Abbas want to do his prayer, you know, Muslim washes their faces, like we call it ablution. This is where they store his sort of ablution, or if you want to take his bed, soup, and he's drinking pet. Now, we are going out to see the second room because of our time.
Wonderful. A lot really happened that many of us don't even know about.
So, this is the second room. Now, this is how they used to move them to the point of no return that we are crossing to right very soon. Now, we call the movement single file. The neck collar chain will be on their neck. They will tie their hand at the back so that they'll not be able to open the chain when it's locked. So they tie their hand, leg chain. And look at this company here, Henry Pauline and Son Limited. This is one of the company that produce the chains that were used on them.
On the slaves?
Yes. There's another
Birmingham, London.
Yeah, there's another company at 111/115 Albatima Road in Birmingham, London, called Hiet & Co. Hiatt. Hiet & Co. in Birmingham, London, that produces we call the chain neck collar chain. The company is still existing up to
Still existing?
Yeah, up to date. Now, slaves were not allowed to communicate, and food is only once in a day. The reason why they were not well fed, they believe that if these black people were well fed, now they have power to fight. You understand? To revolt against their master. So they have to cover their mouth with this thing called iron muzzle, M-U-Z-Z-L-E, to cover their mouth. Now, if they don't want to use this to cover the mouth of the slave, now there's a very sharp object they put inside the fire. When it turns red, they will draw the upper lips and they will perforate. They put another hose here. They now apply padlock on their mouth. Now, when people pay a visit, I used to tell them, black man, we are so intelligent with knowledge. Now, where the slave live is called quarter or cabin. So in the cool of the evening, if they are not doing anything, they will gather themselves because they have to communicate. Since they don't allow them to talk, that they now, once they gather themselves, in the cool of evening, they will use what is known as parting, juba, humble dance to communicate. You understand? So they were communicate. All the women used to braid their hair. We call it corn roll. They put it on their head to communicate. And what prompted that? You see, I think in 1865, slavery was being abolished in America. Then Canada, 1833. So any slave that can escape from the from United States of America, cross to the Canada border,
is a free man.
Free man. See what I'm saying? So everybody want to escape. So they are, and with that communication, they have to plan very well because there are some dogs. We call them killer dogs that they will set after them if they try to run away. Even though I don't know, maybe you have heard this jingle bell, jingle, yes. Jingle bell. That thing originated from during the era of slave trade, whereby they put, we call it a bell neck. They put it on the slave neck. Then it has a two bell. When the slave started running inside the shirok, so the dog will be able to trace the sound. Or sometimes they put what's a spike on their neck, something that have like iron like this, spike neck they put on their neck, so they'll not be able to run through the bushes. You understand? So they went through a lot. And if you are watching a movie titled Django Unchained,
yes,
you see
Django.
That, yeah, they will release like 20 dogs after them. We call them the fugitives, the runaway slave, and this dog will devour them to the bone. And why must this man kill himself? He knows the implication to be a slave. They wanted to capture as a slave. He took knife and can say, I would rather die than being this. That shows that slavery is evil and demonic. Now, any slave, look at this picture. This picture to tell a little story. Slaves that refuse to accept the master's religion or name, they will tie in and flogged. Like that film they wrote, the guy African name was Kunta Kinte. The master that owns the name Toby, they will not give him Toby. The guy said, no, I'm not Toby. My name is Kunta Kinte. I'm from Africa. You understand? He started describing where he come from. It was the 7th generation of Haile Ali, traced their route for United States of America to Senegambia. Today we call it Gambia. They met with the family and they made that beautiful movie titled The Root. That's why when people come, please, let's give our children our African's name. There's nothing wrong with our name tags where we really originate or come from. Now, we are about going to see the next.
I wanted to say something about this.
Okay.
To me, if you are forcing someone into a religion, I don't think whatever you are teaching is real.
Okay. Do you know what? Let me box your mind. Gone are those days in the 70s, because I grew up in the Butimeta, the Muslim, they used to call them Imale. Do you understand that word? Imale, that's what they called them in the 70s and 80s. But suddenly they changed the name. Now, those two religions that we practice in Africa today, like the first religion that came in is the Islam.
Yeah, Islam.
You see, Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Libya that you see today, we are owned by the blacks. We call them the Kush, the Nubian, the Khmer, the Hams. The first pharaoh minister of Egypt was a black man. But in the 7th century, the Arabs invaded Egypt. They killed all the blacks. They gave them Islam. We call their own slavery Trans-Sahara slavery, which lasted for 17th century. Now, you know, if you get to Europe, America, you see a very large colony of the blacks. But the reason why you don't see it today in the Arab world, they used to castrate our men so they cannot reproduce. So majority of them used to die. Now, in the 14th to 15th century, the Portuguese came up with the transatlantic slave trade that we are going through now, you understand, by a man called Prince Henry, the navigator of Portugal. And the movement is not a middle passage. Taking the Africa away as a slave to America is not a middle passage. Now, later, the English also joined the trade. The name of the first slave ship is being a Jesus of Lubeck, or Good Ship Jesus, owned by King Henry VIII of England. Queen Elizabeth I rented to one George Hawkins, and they said taking African away as a slave, and they came and they gave us the Bible. Now we call them the Crusader. Crusader too, they kill a lot of people. You have to accept those two religions that came to Africa today. We have the first religion on us. Yeah. Now they say Africa is a poor continent. Okay, leave us. If Africa is poor, they will never colonize us. Because there's something they see. That's why they have to colonize Africa. You understand?
They see a lot.
So colonization is a slavery to me.
Yes, it's slavery, yeah. Mental slavery. And
they'll come, they'll tell you they discovered it, discovered that. People are believing. How could you discover a place where people live? You understand? It's so embarrassing and look one kind. Let's see the next room, please. Now, this is another sad event. Now, we call this thing Gallow, G-A-L-L-O-W. If they want to kill the slave, if you remember why with the first room, I show you a chain. They'll tie the chain around the ribs of the men, the hand tied at the back, on gallows, the women too hand up, and they'll be here dying gradually. What are they trying to do? And they normally mount the gallows in the plantation or the cabin or the quarters where the slave live. So while other slaves busy working or staying, they will be looking their brother and sister dying in silence. They are trying to instill fear into them. That if you do this, this is what happens. And the person that died quickly is the guy. Because the chain will be eating his rib and his blood will be drizzling till he's dead. While the women, all the blood here will come to the thigh because she was being suspended and she'll be crying. And they're just trying to put fear into them. But thank God, those slaves never give up the fight. Now, this one happened around 1791 in Dominican Republic, when the slaves were being led by a man called Toussaint Louverture of Haiti. And the slave killed all the whites in Haiti. They got their independence. But it was so sad that French came back to them that they should pay them money for killing their people. We call it reparation. And those slave brothers and sisters said, and those enslaved, let me use that word, enslaved brothers and sisters said, no, we got the money to pay you. They said, borrow from us. Let's pay, which they did. As I'm talking, Haiti is one of the poorest countries today in the world because they are still paying to the French colony. To me, as a Rasta man, it's like a slap. How could somebody invaded my land? You forced me away as a slave, and I'm still paying you money. And thank God, if people like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger say the French should leave them, that they can take care of themselves. And probably that was prompted because the seed that be sowed, and that seed must germinate. Because Africa, we need a freedom.
Sure.
You understand? Now, look at that small window. Also give you another 40 enslaved African ventilation. And this cloth on this local mannequin is over 200 years of age. It was given to Siriki Abbas by a Brazilian friend. Now, let me quickly show you the iron corrugated sheet that they used for the roofing. It's thicker than what we use today. You can hear the sound. So thick.
Is this fan?
Yeah, this is a fan. This is a iron corrugated. That's what they use for the roofing. What we use today, you get 25 or 30 of it from this edibles. You can hear the sound. And then the reason why they have to use this, let me tell you this. Now, you know, it's thicker. Now, back then, if you look up, you know, they use a bamboo for the roofing.
Yes.
If it were bamboo, then the slaves were not full. They would have escaped. Now they use a clay like 3 feet when you do like as if you do a decking. So because this man can absorb light and it will be so heat. So to lessen the heat in here, so that's why they have to use clay like a decking so that there would not be too much heat. Still yet, putting 40 here, they still went to hell and without rectangular shape of window. Now, let's see the last place in the compound before we move
take all this
to the next place. At the point of no return. So you can see all these rooms. Come over. See.
People really went through a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
So all these rooms that the family occupy today, they are all sold. You can see some of the rooms that have been abandoned.
Yes, sir.
You can see they're all sold without smaller window and small door then. And 40 in each of them. And you count all the rooms, you be counting 40.
But sir, why didn't they take a lot of time to preserve this place?
This compound, I said earlier, this compound, when I was giving the introduction, I said this compound is under the federal government of Nigeria as a national monument. I think the government is supposed to do better. This place must be here to attract
because more tourism brings a lot of money.
Definitely.
Because if you, I'm sure when you were at WIDA, you could see the amount of Europeans that came for the event. It was shocking because the first time I attended it, I didn't know it was
which event?
The Voodoo Festival.
Yes, because in Benin they developed their tourism.
Yes, apart from even develop, they hold on to their heritage, their culture.
Yes, their culture.
They are happy to showcase
who
they are. They are very happy to showcase who they are.
Yeah, and
you can never say Beninese doing voodoo and is hiding.
No.
They don't. Many of them don't hide. You see it in front of their houses, in front of wherever they do.
Now, that chamber used to be his office, Seriki Aba office. Is cut. Now we call this structure mausoleum, where he was buried. He died 11 June 1919, and when he died, this is where he was buried.
The Seriki?
Yeah, this is where he was buried. And at your back lie the remnant, the building where he lives. The building collapsed in the compound 1995 to be 1847. The building used to be somewhere here back there. It's an historic building. And had it been, this building is still standing, probably will be the second story building in Nigeria because it has a document to back it up. So you are welcome, and that's the tomb of his large child. Now, right from here now, this is how the journey gonna go, how we're gonna move. You know, minimum of 1,600 enslaved Africans we have been moved from this compound, from the Barracoon now. We are headed to the slave point of no return. But we will return because we are not
slaves.
We are the slave port. Now, the slave port started from that corner down to that side. As you can see, this is the slave port where most of our Tory used to board their boat before crossing to the point of no return. And most of our Tories, when they comes around, this is you can see Captain Onolaba. This is Captain Onolaba, where most of our Tories have to have a seat awaiting the boat before crossing to the point of no return. You understand? You see, back then, we came into this island through a speedboat. There's not a speedboat back then.
Yes.
There is a paddle boat, but we don't know how mighty big we don't know the size of the boat that they used to cross them. So, you've seen the Barracoon where they kept them.
Yes.
So, I told you the movement is not a middle passage. Once they put the neck collar chain on them, and the chain is so heavy, and mind you, the slave were nowhere felt. Now, they will cross them to this peninsula, this island, okay? So once they cross, they'll fix the chains on their neck, and they'll move them in a single file, like a straight road. Now, you can see, this is the route of the journey to unknown destination, because the slave don't even know if there's any country called Europe or America. They don't know where they're taking them to. That's why they call it unknown destination. Now we are still walking to the point of no return. So,
and they would have to walk from here to that.
Definitely.
And we are taking bike because the walk is about 30 or 30 minutes.
Yes. So let's go to the point of no return. Now, initially, when the slavery began, there's nothing like this well. Who dug the well? Why must they do this well at the middle of the journey? The well was dug by the African chiefs that were selling their people into slavery. Now, we call the slave ship a cargo ship. A cargo ship could take like 300, 500, 200, depending the size of the slave ship. The crew that were taking them away, they are no more than 25 to 30 people. Now, the slave, they are just like a wounded lion, ready to devour. Now, if they spotted the lion on their way, it will motivate them. They will massacre, they will kill all the crew on board, but they never kill the sailor. The reason why they will not touch the sailor, they cannot navigate. They will not add the sailor to sail to any available land. They will not occupy. I think that will happen in Guadeloupe, Bahama, Haiti, those Caribbean. When they spot the land, they kill. You know. Now, the African chiefs that were selling their own people into slavery now came up. What can they do so that the slave will be less aggressive? They dug this well in the middle of the journey. They charm the well. We call it voodoo. Yoruba call it Ogun. They put African magic power inside it. So once they reach here, they'll fetch the water and give them to consume. Once they take the water, we are told that they will lose their memories for 3 to 4 months. Now, to me, it's not as if they're going to lose memory, because if they should lose their memory, why are you enslaving them? They will be useless. The essence of the water is just good, just to calm them down for 3 to 4 months. So by then, yes, so that they will be able to sail down to Europe
without any struggle.
But ironically, some say the water is still effective, some say not, but we don't know how true this is, because we never see any volunteer that say, okay,
need to volunteer, maybe.
So we never see anybody who say, okay, let me take this water, if it's still effective or not. So nobody is ready to take it. Government call it slave attenuation well, some call it memory loss well. Now, after giving them the water, they'll still say then that they'll continue the journey to the point of no return. So let's move to the point of no return. Okay, now this is the point of no return. Now, back then, initially, what used to be here is these two poles here. Can you see this straight pole here? Back then, there used to be an object that symbolized human being here. Another one here, there's a chain that connected them. We call it arc of departure. So at the front of this two pole, there's a very wider hole, round, like about 4 to 5 feet depth. So, you know, they spent 3 to 4 months in the Barracoon without taking their pets. So Europeans, when they moved them, they would dump them inside the hole. They used their bucket, fed the salty water. They started splashing on them to wash. So after washing, they started doing the loading into the slave ship called cargo ship. Now, the African ships, the Lagos State government now came up with a beautiful, I used to call it beautiful idea, that they should build another door in conjunction with these two poles. That's why they build this tunnel, this round tunnel, that when tourists comes here, you go in as if you are going to Europe, America, you come back to this side. This is an exit. Here you see the thing. So that's me, door of return, no more point of no return. Now, could you guys believe that the foundation of this thing started by the Fashola? Imagine since Fashola left office, nothing has been done. And the good and the bad and the worst part of it is that we never started using this thing before everything started falling apart.
I'll try to see if I can write multiple letters or emails.
Okay.
To the government to
now,
look into it.
Let's move closer to the waterfront and let me explain a few things before you fly your drone, because it will be lovely when you take it from upper side here on the top. So you can see, so all this place, you have the coconut tree from here to that side. So now, you can see that the water is troublesome. You can see the wave is much. So that is to say, the cargo ship cannot come shore. It will capsize. You understand? Now, this slave ship called cargo ship will be some few kilometers away.
Yes.
You understand?
Anchor.
So, yeah, anchor, yeah, be more, right? So they'll be using smaller boats. They will take them in batches. Now, let's assume that this is the bottom of the slave ship. The 4 slaves' head will be here. They're like sleeping. There's like somebody in the morgue, in the mortuary, sleeping this way in the slave ship. So facing up, the 1st slave head will be here. The next slave that will follow head will be here, leg. The reason why I do it, they want a gap. You understand?
Communication.
Good. That's why they have to put a leg, head. You understand? Then there'll be another deck so close to them so that they will not be able to rise. You understand? Then another deck, then so majority of the slaves are over there when they pee and poo. It's set down. So majority of them got sick. Sorry, the Europeans believe that any sick slave will affect the elderly one. Any slave that got sick, they will dump the slave into the Atlantic Ocean. Or sometimes, if there's storm on the water, if the boat want to capsize, they have to drop some slave alive for the balancing of the slave ship. And according to UNESCO, about 25 to 30 millions Africans will be taken away as a slave. But it was so sad that only few of them that made the journey, because majority of them found themselves at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. So this is the point of no return.